Good morning and welcome to town meeting in Hartland, Vermont in the year 2024. I would like to start with a Pledge of Allegiance, and we're going to have it led by 3 8th graders, Wes, Mackenzie, and Cora. Liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to the 262nd annual town meeting of the town of Hartland. My name is Matt Dunn, and I have the honor of serving as your moderator today. Town meeting in Vermont is one of the few opportunities in the country where a community comes together to engage in meaningful discussion of the issues facing that community. In Hartland, these discussions have been known to sometimes be intense, but always civil, as we return to being a community whose strength is in our commitment to each other, despite differences of opinions and politics. In this time when democracies are under threat in other parts of the world, we can all feel grateful that the democratic process in its oldest form is alive and well in Hartland. The moderator's job is to independently and objectively oversee the smooth and inclusive proceedings before us, and I will endeavor to do so. I am bound to follow the procedures outlined in Robert's Rules of Order, Vermont state law, and with guidance from the Secretary of State. I have asked Pat Richardson, who is around here in the back, checking people in, who served as moderator in the past, to serve as my parliamentarian. I will also lean on the town clerk for additional advice and to provide me with advice on procedural matters and rulings that may come up in the course of debate. A couple of quick reminders about the process and the rules. First, only registered voters of the town of Hartland are allowed to speak and vote during town meeting without permission from the body. If you are a registered voter and plan to participate, please make sure you have signed in with our election workers in the back. In case you came in from the side and voted and came up, you need to sign in to be qualified to vote. If you are not a registered voter in the town of Hartland, I would actually ask you to please raise your hand at this time, so I just know who is out there. Okay, all right, thank you. Second, we will be taking the articles in the order they were warned, unless there is a suspension of the rules. Otherwise, they will be in the order that they were warned in the mailings that we received and in the guides which you should have had access to on the way in. Third, as is my charge as town moderator, I will allow only amendments that are germane to the warned article per guidance from Robert's Rules, case law, and the Secretary of State. Discussion of non-warranted items can happen under Article 11, but any action taken will not be binding. Okay? Fourth, we have a tradition in Hartland of allowing for open debate. I will do my best to ensure debate appropriately remains on the topic of the current motion, and will also try to ensure everyone is heard, including not calling on an individual a second time before others who have not spoken have had a chance to speak. All questions are to be directed through the moderator, not directed to specific individuals. Before speaking, a person needs to be recognized. Wait for the microphone delivered by our three runners, Wes, Mackenzie, and Cora, and state your name. I will refrain from calling on people by name, even if I have known you all my life, so that individuals who are new to town or town meeting do not feel left out. Fifth, by rule, I will read the article before entertaining a motion which will precede debate on the motion. Sometimes those articles are long, so please bear with me. When a debate appears to have concluded, I will repeat the article, then move on to the vote. Finally, a helpful tool is something called unanimous consent. If I perceive a change in the proceedings that require a rule suspension to be non-controversial or in line with tradition, I will preface a motion without objection and suggest that next step. If anyone has a concern for whatever reason with that action, they are absolutely allowed to object, at which point we would either not go forward with the rule suspension or go through a formal vote on the rule suspension that would require a 3/4 vote. Okay? I'm sorry, 2/3 vote. 2/3 vote. For 2/3 vote for a rule suspension. See, parliamentarian at hand. Otherwise, I will just continue to proceed. Okay? So, let us try that unanimous consent option. And so what we're going to do is continue with the tradition of having our state legislative members come and give a brief presentation on what is happening in Montpelier that would be of interest to the voters of Hartland. We are going to ask them to limit each of their remarks to 5 minutes. There will be time for some questions at the end, which I will also try to contain, since the major focus of today is on the town business. But since Elizabeth Burrows is trying to attend another town meeting, actually they're all trying to attend another town meeting, but I will ask Representative Burrows to go first, and with unanimous consent, I will allow a non-Hartland resident to address the body. Okay? Let's get you a mic. Here you are. You may want to go to the middle. You may want to go up here. Either way. All good. Wherever you are comfortable. Should be on.
Hello?
Yep, it's on.
Okay. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Burrows. I, along with John, represent you in the Vermont House of Representatives. And I want to start off by thanking you for electing me, for those of you who did, and telling you how much I love this job. It's really wonderful to be among policy wonks at the State House, and also to be able to answer your questions and provide help where I can back here at home. I serve on the General and Housing Committee, and I thought I would, because housing is such a big issue right now, I thought I'd focus on one bill that we just passed out of our committee this past week. It's Bill H829, which is entitled Permanent Upstream Eviction Preventions and Enhancing Housing Stability. This bill reconfigures VHIP, the Vermont Housing Improvement Program, which was started during using ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act funds. And as such, it started off providing grants, and it will be reconfigured to provide forgivable loans. The program itself allows a homeowner to add either an accessory dwelling unit or to add another unit onto their existing home to provide rentals. We also added in a provision for upgrades to homes to ADA compliance, so that people can have help from our state to have more accessible units. We also funded an organization, the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board, which funds housing nonprofits. We provided funding for tenant representation in eviction courts. We realized that a lot of tenants become evicted because they are behind in their rent, and that it would be less expensive to the state to keep them out of court and instead help with their arrears. And so we've provided a fund for people to be able to catch up on their rent. We also provided revolving loans for permanent affordable housing, which means that the money, once a homeowner decides to move on, they just put their money back into the system. So it's a permanent cycle of affordable housing. And we also provided we shored up the infrastructure for mobile home parks, a lot of which were damaged during the flooding. We provided a way for some of those plots to get, and pads to get fixed. And we provided funds for parents of adult children with developmental disabilities. It's a small population, but those parents are extremely worried about what will become of their kids, as the parents age. So we provided a kind of safeguard for them to be able to build housing on their properties for them. Our next task is to shore up all of that with more policy. Some of that about the floods that occurred, and requiring that there be a disclosure of flood status having taken place. So that's it for our committee at the moment. I love hearing from you. I love hearing all of your comments and questions and requests for help. So please don't be shy about reaching out. Thank you.
Represent all of you in Montpelier. And as always, there's a lot going on. We have nearly 1,000 bills between the House and the Senate, and so in 5 minutes, I'll touch on all, no. Representative Burrows and I put together a legislative update for the mid-session, and like in the last couple of years, I put that online because rather than trying to cram everything on 2 pages and figure out what you might want to read, you can just go on there and read the pieces you want. There are articles in all 13 money and policy committees there, and I sent the link out on the listserv, and if you can't find it, I can send you a PDF. My email is really easy to find on the legislative website. This biennium, I'm on the Transportation Committee and also on the House Committee on Rules. In our committee, we just this last week passed out the transportation bill, an annual bill that's going to provide over $850 million in funding, and that includes road and bridge maintenance, aviation, railroads, and snow removal. And keep in mind, over half of that $850 million is federal funding. Much of the work in climate change is being done by the Transportation Committee, and that's because over 40% of our carbon emissions come from transportation. This year's T-bill will continue to make significant investments in policies to help Vermonters transition to more fuel-efficient vehicles and expand the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Additionally, the T-bill invests in public transportation and infrastructure, and that supports walking, biking, public transit options throughout the state. Another key bill dealing with climate change is with the Environment and Energy Committee, and that's the Renewable Energy Standard Bill. And that reflects a really quite remarkable collaboration between most of Vermont's electric utilities and environmental groups to bring renewable energy to the grid faster. And the goal here is 100% renewable by 2030 for most utilities. That committee is also working on modernizing Act 250. I'll mention a few other committees. The Agriculture, Food Resiliency, and Forestry Committee, I used to serve on that committee, is no surprise working to help Vermont farmers. And they passed a bill out that will expand what poultry farmers who do on-farm slaughter are able to sell. They're also working on protection of landowners from timber theft, and maybe most importantly, protection of our pollinators from neonicotinoid pesticides. The two money committees, Appropriation and Ways and Means. Appropriations just passed the in the House and Senate, we just passed the 2024 Budget Adjustment Act, and now that committee is working on creating a balanced budget for 2025. And one thing that's remarkable in Vermont is it's a Vermont tradition. We always pass a balanced budget even though there's no constitutional or legislative reason we have to do that. The goal of the Ways and Means Committee is to serve all Vermonters through an equitable, progressive, and evolving tax system. And they need to, of course, have policies that raise enough revenue to fund the state. Our tax system is one of the most progressive in the nation. Tax policy and tax and budget creation is really quite complex, and the Legislative Joint Fiscal Office put together a really useful slide set for a legislative briefing earlier. And so if you want to know more about the questions like where's our money come from, where's our money go, and what does our money buy, I'd urge you to look through that set. And there's a link in the legislative update to that report. A few other committees, Commerce and Economic Development. They're working on a data privacy bill, also a workforce development bill, and also another bill, consumer protection relating to towing and storage of vehicles. The Education Committee, again, no surprise, they're working on education funding and looking at long-term strategies to tackle the cost of education and our complex school funding formula. They're also looking into the possibility of cost sharing for services to allow school districts to collaborate on common needs, and trying to look at options to address the statewide backlog of needs for renovation or replacement of school buildings. How am I doing?
5 seconds.
5 seconds. Well, I knew I wouldn't get through all 13 committees, but there are articles on all 13, and as always, contact us if you have any questions or concerns. It's far from a comprehensive list, and what I talked about was mostly just the House stuff.
And with that, we will quickly transition over without objection, Senator Allison Clarkson.
Thank you. 13 committees. There are a whole lot more committees working at the State House. I'm Allison Clarkson. It's a total joy to be with you this morning. I love kicking off town meeting day with one of the most robust town meetings in the state. And having been in Wethersfield on Saturday, it is also a pleasure to see your new town manager, John, here. He was moderator in Wethersfield. So it's great to see him in two capacities. Town meeting is a day we celebrate our community life and our municipal life together. It's also a day to celebrate our partnership, which is the state and the towns. We are each other's biggest partners. And so thank you for inviting us to speak, but it's appropriate because we're working on a lot of things that have impacts on all of you and on our towns. I'm Allison Clarkson. As I said, I serve you as the majority leader in the Senate. I serve you as vice chair of Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, and on Senate Government Operations. And we came into this session really thinking we were focusing on flood recovery, housing, flood mitigation, climate crisis. Those were our top priorities. They still are. However, given the challenges that we faced with unintended consequences of Act 127, as you are all very clear on, we had to pivot in large measure to revisit our school funding formula. So, and school construction. We found out about 2 weeks ago that we have $6.3 billion in deferred maintenance, renovation needs, and construction costs in the state. That's gobsmacking. The key cost drivers this year, as you know, that are challenging our school budgets are 16.4% increase in teacher health care, the end of our one-time federal COVID, what we call ESSER funds for our schools, overall inflation, and of course the debt service on the capital projects and renovations, which we spread around the state and all of us bear. In addition, we needed to fix the unintended consequence in the policy change in 2022 in Act 127, an act which reweighted students based on the cost to educate kids from poverty and kids with, who are learning English as a second language. As you know, we weight children in terms of their needs. We weight them for special needs and other things as well. We have repealed the 5% transition mechanism, but that is just the beginning of what we need to do. As those of you who are voting on the Hartland budget soon in April are clear on. We are committed to containing costs and limiting tax increases as much as possible, but this is a really challenging year. Of course, town meeting, you're going to approve the budget, which becomes our bill. So we don't get the bill on education until all the towns vote their school budgets. And then we'll get to work, because then we'll have the real numbers, and we will address the difficult task of matching costs and revenues. But we're working on a lot of different things. We can chew gum and walk and sing all at the same time. And we are working on a whole bunch of different aspects of flood recovery and flood mitigation and climate resiliency. Protecting river corridors, Jennifer will be happy to hear all this, restoring floodplains and wetlands, reviewing the health of our dams. We have about 100 dams that are in terrible shape. How government can better respond to disasters, something we're always working on, and moving housing and development out of harm's way. In addition, we're working on the housing crisis. Elizabeth and I work on the complementary teams working on this. We'll be continuing to reduce the barriers to housing development in our downtowns and village centers, promoting housing density, and with regulatory reforms, which leads us to updating Act 250, which we're in the process of. Tom and I are working closely on that, and I actually have great hope that we'll end up in a really good place. This will all help us further clarify where to develop, where to protect, and make the entire process simpler and faster, which we all need. And we're working on firearm safety, sadly in polling places, trying to protect them further, updating our open meeting law, which expires at the end of June, and improving data privacy both for our adults and for our students who are really hammered with some of the social media effects. Your young people can speak to this. And improving public safety. So there's so many issues that we're addressing: transportation, telehealth, all sorts of things, and your citizen legislature is working really hard to address them in the short 4.5 months we have. And with federal money drying up, the money's tight this year. We face the perennial challenge of our big hearts, of how to pay for all the good things Vermonters care, want, and need. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. I also love this job and am so grateful that you have sent us back to continue to do the good work for the people of Vermont and by the people of Vermont. Thank you.
I think we will, unless there are burning questions, we will continue on with the remaining program, and you all can get to your other town meetings. So, thank you. A couple of quick reminders. One is some folks have come in who have not checked in with Bettina in the back. Please make sure to do so. That's the way that we can make sure that you are a registered voter to be able to participate. The second thing, as we noticed during the remarks, some folks have phones that are on. So please take a moment now to turn off your phones so it does not interrupt the debate. The other, for those who came in, there is still room in the Rowdy balcony up top, there you are. So if you want, if you're tired of standing, there's plenty of room up in the balcony. And in fact, for the microphone runners, we'll actually have someone up there with a microphone. So with that, we're going to move on to the what has now become a bit of a tradition, which is a conservation award. And Rob, I'm going to turn over to you and hand you a microphone.
Good morning. My name is Rob Anderegg, and I'm the chair of the Hartland Conservation Commission. Each year, the commission presents an award.
You got to hold it right next to your. There you go.
Sorry. Each year, the commission presents an award to a Hartland resident who has made really outstanding contributions to conservation in Hartland. We define that term rather broadly because conservation can mean a lot of things. This year, our award is in the area of energy conservation. For many years, Sarah Bruce has been the face of the Hartland Energy Committee, and in that role, she has coordinated or helped to coordinate weatherization events, solarization events, electric vehicle expos. But the place where Sarah's work really stands out is in the project called Window Dressers. For those of you who don't know Window Dressers, it's a project that builds removable inserts, insulating inserts for windows for really anyone, but particularly for people, low-income homeowners and renters, so that they can reduce their energy use and save money in the process. These inserts are built in what are called community builds. There was one here in Hartland right on this very floor this year. They involve hundreds of volunteers. They span a week or more. And Sarah has coordinated or co-coordinated several of these community builds. What that means is that for weeks before the build, Sarah is recruiting volunteers, organizing volunteers, working with the group up in Maine, the nonprofit that provides all the materials. Once the build starts, she's here training people, being a shift supervisor, troubleshooter, everything. Even when Sarah is not coordinating a build, she goes and volunteers in communities around Hartland. So she's volunteered in Thetford and Woodstock and Hartford. I think it's not an exaggeration to say that directly or indirectly, Sarah is responsible for building hundreds of these inserts and saving thousands of gallons of fuel oil and thousands of dollars for people who really need it. In addition, Sarah is always generous with her time and her expertise, sharing with students, residents, anyone who has questions about energy. Sarah is always open to talking about it. And so the commission is pleased this year to present Sarah with the 2024 Conservation Award. Sarah, are you lurking somewhere? Ah. Hold it up to you. So, you want to see?
Okay, this one caught me at surprise. And I just thank you all. Rob did make it sound like I do window dressers all by myself, and that is not the case. There are about 100 volunteers that come and work, but there's also an organizing committee that does a lot of the other advanced work. But I just think it's a wonderful thing, and we're hoping we're going to do it this year. I'd love to have it in this room. It was spectacular last year. But we do it with groups of towns, and so we'll probably be in Hartford or Sharon this coming fall. But there are other ones around. I thank you very much. Very much a surprise and unexpected.
Sarah's name will be added to a plaque on the wall back there of all of our previous Heartland Conservation Award winners.
Thank you, Rob, and for the Conservation Commission. Okay, we are going to move on to the meat of the agenda, and we are going to start with some introductions of the Select Board, and then our chair will provide a couple of remarks before we get into the actual articles. So why don't we do introduction? Everyone introduce themselves first, and Clyde, we can start with you.
My name is Clyde Jenny. I've been on the board 2 years and happy to serve the town of Hartland.
Use the microphone.
I'm Tom Kennedy, and this is my first year on the board. And thank you for electing me.
Jim Riley. I think I've been on the board about 3 years, but Tom makes it seem longer.
Phil Hobby. I'm currently the chair, and I'm finishing my 6th year on the board. I can't help but reflect for a few moments. Before the meeting, there was chit-chat about CLAs, the order of the agenda, and who was going to speak. But the last item was the cost of straw and the availability of straw. And I think that really reflects the town we live in. Last year, the board took the approach of recognizing a core component of our community, volunteers. This year, I wanted to take the time to, with my colleagues, to thank our managers in the various departments. It's been a tumultuous year on the HR front, enough said. And I'd like to make sure everyone knows Tracy Joy, our Director of the Library. Barrows, our highway manager and foreman. And Martin Dole, our finance director. These 4 have stepped up to keep the town running during a period without a town manager. I also want to thank them for their time serving on the search committee for the new town manager. Their input was very, very valuable. Of course, I need to extend a special thank you to Martin for serving as our interim town manager. I would be remiss in not thanking our elected officials, Stacy Bradley for support during this project with Robert and Cheyenne. Cheryl Perry has been our town treasurer and is stepping down this year. We thank her for her financial work for the town. And Brian Straffolino is stepping down. It has been a personal pleasure for me to work with Brian, and his service to the town has been exemplary, and we all wish him well. I think Allison Clarkson stole my thunder, but I think you now know we have a new town manager. John, the board is very excited to have a skilled and enthusiastic individual to serve our town. Welcome, John. And John will be presenting later in the meeting. Okay, so thank you, Matt.
Great. Okay, we are then going to move on to the orders of the day. And the first article is to Elect by Australian ballot town officers for the ensuing year. Polls will be open at 7. They were opened at 7 a.m. And will continue to be open until they're closed at 7 p.m. So please do vote. And you can see in the article the individuals who are on the ballot at the town level. Before we move on to Article 2, I think because there's going to be a PowerPoint presentation, we're going to ask everyone on the stage to not be in the way of the PowerPoint presentation. So bear with us for 1 minute.
Residents and firefighter families, and somehow we were having so much fun I never took any more pictures of that pig roast and big celebration up at the North Hartland Dam. So it was a great celebration. Thanks for 75 years. This is our membership. We have 2 new members. This is our membership in 2023. We actually have a few more members that have raised their hands and joined. We're at 29 members right now. We have a chief, myself. Scott Bowers is our assistant chief and fire warden. Jason Berry is a captain, and Alan Beebe, in addition to being the rescue squad director, is a lieutenant and a crazily overqualified individual, and I'm glad to have all of those people on our department. His wife Kim is our secretary and keeps us all in some sort of order. 15 of us are trained in both fire and emergency medical response and have some emergency medical response cross-certification. We went on 174 calls in 2023, and I'll show you a slide on that in just a minute. I say 2 new members, and then I show 3 new members, so clearly I'm not keeping up. Remy and Julie and Olive, all female firefighters, joined this year, and Olive is actually a junior firefighter, so that's exciting. Next slide, please. You can see an upward trend here, and the legend here is that red is some sort of fire, blue is some sort of car crash, and gold is everything else. And we went on more car crashes this year than we've been on in a while, and part of that is due to a mutual aid agreement with Windsor to help be backup for them when they go out on the interstate. So there's some logic there to why there's more crashes on the interstate. The little snowflakes, if you can see those, that's my differentiation between being out on the interstate for a crash and being in town in a crash. And you can see that overall we go to more crashes on the interstate, not surprisingly. Next slide, please. This is our rescue squad. Every single member on the rescue squad, I believe, is also now on the fire department, which is great. These people hold additional certification as either paramedics, which is like 1,000 hours of training, emergency medical technicians, which is like 150 hours of training, and we have a few advanced EMTs that can do a few more things in the field. And new, we have a Vermont Emergency First Responder, which is more like a 40-hour course. And so this has been a huge help to the fire department and rescue squad with these additional medical responders trained to provide first response before our contracted ambulance service arrives. So the fire department and the rescue squad are two different budgeted line items. There was some confusion this year. The rescue squad landed in the big block of articles that we vote on all at once because their budget is unchanged. This is the rescue squad call volume trend, and that's hard to ignore. We went on 330 calls, which is about 3 times as many calls as we went on in 2013. And somebody's going to ask me why, and I don't have a good answer. We are an aging community, and we have a lot of repeat calls, and we're going to start working a little more tightly with the town nurse, and we're going to figure this out and hopefully start to taper off. But we are not the only community that's seeing this. Next slide, please. This is our apparatus. We currently have 5 pieces of apparatus, and then the rescue squad has a small truck for emergency medical response too. Our oldest piece of apparatus is the forestry down at the bottom. And there are 2 different bars. Sometimes this plot confuses people. The top bar is what we plan to get out of the truck, and the bottom bar is where we're at with age right now. And that green vertical line there is today. And our forestry truck was supposed to be delivered today, but it has not been, and it's now estimated to be here in June. We voted on that 2 years ago, so that gives you an idea of backlog in the emergency vehicle business these days. Engine 2 and Tanker 1 are next on the chopping block, so to speak, and those are both doing okay, and we're hoping to nurse a few more years of life out of them. And I'll talk about a plan in a few more slides where we're actually considering consolidating Tanker 1 and Engine 2 into one pumper-tanker combo. And a little firefighter 101, a pumper is an engine that pumps water in high volume, like high capacity, big pump, pushes lots of water onto the fire, and a tanker brings that water to the scene. It's just a water carrying device. So we have 2 tankers and 2 engines, and there are now options to buy a fully capable engine that also carries enough water to be qualified as a tanker. So we're looking at a plan in the sort of 2028 timeframe that we'd have to vote on probably next year or the year after to go after a Tanker 1, Engine 2 replacement as one vehicle. Everything else is doing pretty well, and we can go on to the next slide, thanks. I think I already talked to this, but I'll go over it quickly. Forestry should be here in 2024. June, mid-year, it was supposed to be here by today. We have prioritized maintenance in a way that we've never done before. We have actually hired a guy who works full-time for Hartford as a fire department mechanic, and he is overworked, and then we pay him privately for his own business on the side to come to our fire station and service our vehicles, and he is finding all sorts of stuff that our annual inspection at Sable & Sons is missing, because fire trucks are just difficult vehicles to maintain. And he's doing great. Sable's is doing great too, and hopefully we're going to spend a little money split between 2 budget years this year and get everything up to sort of high firefighting par for our department. And I talked about our plan to replace Engine 2 and Tanker 1 already. So go on to the next slide. This year we had fun at the Hartland Elementary School with a prop we borrowed from the Hartford Fire Department to practice putting fires out with an extinguisher. And I think almost every student from the 4th grade up and some lucky staff got to play with this. Everybody remembers the July flooding event. I don't know how many people remember Thanksgiving evening. I was enjoying a meal when the Hartford Dispatch Center called me and said there was a rock slide on the interstate. So that was a new one. Hartford fortunately covered that one for us. And I talked about our ongoing preventive maintenance. We've also done a treatment on the bottom of all our apparatus to try to arrest the rusting issues that we're seeing common to this area. Next slide, please. So this year we have what appears to be a significantly higher budget, and I want to try to explain what I'm thinking about here. So we were at $80,000, and we went up 6.8% to get to one increment. And then I would like to propose a stipend for the chief, and I'm going to talk about that on the next slide. Our main budget increments are in truck maintenance, keeping the building running, both buildings running, heating and oil and fuel all is going up. Electricity is going up, and our radio communication systems continue to, getting pagers and radios in all the apparatus continues to be more expensive. 2 years ago, we voted on the forestry truck. That money is in the bank, so to speak, and the price should not change. We have not put a down payment on it. Miraculously, in the fire department world or fire apparatus world, you agree on a price, you sign a contract, no cash exchanges hands until the vehicle is delivered. So the money we voted on unknown to me, that should not change. We should still pay that amount as soon as it's delivered. We're looking at upgrading the jaws of life, the extrication equipment. They're currently older than I've been on the department, and there's some really amazing electric hydraulic tools available that most of the other departments around us have converted to. This would give us more manageable tools for all of our firefighters, easier to maintain, and open up some compartment space and get the gasoline-powered tools off of the trucks. And then I talked about the Engine 2 and Tanker 1 replacement in the sort of 2028 timeframe. We probably are going to need to vote, given the lead time of vehicles, in the 2026 timeframe on that. So that's just a heads up. Next slide. Okay, why am I standing here asking for money? My administrative duties have increased substantially, as has the call volume. I consider myself an excellent communicator, and that takes time out of my life and away from my family. I also take vacation time from work to do fire calls, and that's not recognized at my work as a paid event, so that's coming out of my paid time off. And all of this is going up, as the trends are showing. This is my 16th year as chief, and I started tracking my hours. Thank you, Martin, for the nudge on that. And this is just snip out of my spreadsheet. So I'm trying to be good about this, and every meeting Martin shows up and says, "You're still tracking your hours, right, John?" Because they're going to ask to see it. So I probably am going to embarrass somebody. I think I have a reference letter to Jason Berry there on the second to last line. He did get that job, by the way, so that's good. So over 40 hours a month is basically what I'm averaging, probably more than that. I'm being conservative. There's 12 months in a year. I'm paying myself a hefty $25 an hour. That works out to about $12,000 a year, and that's what I'm asking for. Next slide, please. I tried to be creative here, but I'm an engineer. If those of you that don't know me, I'm a full-time mechanical engineer. That's my other job. So what I wanted to do is take my spreadsheet that Martin made me do and rank it by font size on what it is that I'm doing. So I took all of the things in my time tracking and I put it up here. And what's important to me is my family, which should be up above the chief. And Hartland's really important to me, and the fire department's really important to me, and membership is. So is all the apparatus that I need to make sure that the membership is wearing and using every day. Chief, my pager's not working. We got a new contract for mutual aid. There's this town meeting I need to get ready for. You get the idea. So I used this thing online that let me do this bubble plot. It was kind of cool. Next slide. All right, these are some recurring plots that I just want to show and remind everybody with. The cost to outfit one firefighter is about $14,500. When a firefighter stops being a firefighter with us, we can recycle some of that equipment, but we need to buy new equipment as well. So it's an expensive, life-saving industry, and we try to keep a high par on our equipment. Firefighter 1 is about 180 hours. EMT courses is about 180 hours. And we have to maintain continuing education of at least 24 hours a year, and our crew does a pretty good job putting those training plans together. We are 100% volunteer. Next slide, please. This is just some statistics that are put in a cool kind of thing, but there's over 36 million fire department calls in a year, and we have about, let's see, I'm trying to do this correctly here. So there's 18,873 all volunteer departments, and the rest are much smaller numbers where people get paid, and that's what makes our nation work, and there's no exception to this in Vermont. This is the 65% of all the firefighters in the United States are volunteer. The bottom shields there, 22% under 30, 23, 30 to 39, 20, 40 to 49, and the highest number, 34%, are age 50 and up. And that's probably runs true in our department too. The statistics don't lie. So I think there's one more slide, two more slides. This is just some other, volunteer firefighters are our first line of defense in more than just fires. We go to a lot of that gold section on my plot. We go to a lot of different things besides fires, a lot of wires down. Rock slides was a new one for me this year. And we have some recruitment and retention challenges. As your volunteer department, it's hard to put in the time that's needed. We keep mandating new training to be qualified for federal grants and local Vermont grants. We are an aging community, and we have very good leadership right now and very few internal conflicts, which I'm very proud about. Next slide. I think this is my last slide. Just some reminders. Those 911 like address signs that are outside of your house, put them in a place where we can see them from the street or from your driveway. They let us know how to get to your house. We have other technology that points us in the right direction, but it's those green or white 911 signs that really tell us that we're in the right spot before we deploy all the stuff we need to. We've had a number of cases of carbon monoxide and smoke detectors truly saving lives in Hartland. It happens every year. Please consider those not just annoyances, but absolutely life-saving pieces of equipment in your house. Help us get you out. We do appreciate a call. It is the law, if you're going to burn something, to call us and get a permit. And the town supports us significantly on that. And on the weekends, you can reach the officers of the fire department. Brush fire season is coming right up, a little earlier this year than last year. Please be attentive. If you see smoke and you don't understand why, it's quite possible in this already spring conditions that we are into brush fire season. There's an emergency registry called the CARE system I talked about last year. This is a system where if you have elderly people or people that will need help in an emergency, you can register that residence with us, and we can reach out to the dispatch center and they can help us in a time of need, like an extensive power outage or icing or high winds, to help people with, say, oxygen and stuff like that get the help they need, and that's a place to register them. And lastly, if you don't want us to use our tools to break down your front door, you can get yourself what's called a Knox, like Fort Knox box. And most of the town and municipal buildings have these and allow us to get in a time of emergency with a very special key that we keep locked in a very special vault that's tagged to each of our social security numbers when we unlock it, because the bank also has the same kind of lock. And you can buy these for a little less money for your own house, and we can let ourselves in if you're not home to deal with an emergency there. Maybe one more slide? All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Please state your name. Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Is there any debate or questions? No, I stated at the beginning. Okay, so I will, but before there are questions. I'm going to do it before the vote. I will err on the side of. So I'm going to restate the motion. Article 2, which is shall the town vote to appropriate $92,000 to support the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Jennifer asked the question, do I have recommendations beside fire extinguishers?
On Article 2. Questions? Seeing none, the question is, shall the town vote to appropriate $92,000 to support the Hartland Volunteer Fire Department? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 2. Article 3, shall the town authorize the deposit of $2,032.11 from the Lister Education Restricted Fund to the Reappraisal Fund? And we have someone who's going to address this particular article. Martin or Tom?
Good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on, I'm sorry. My apologies. So we need a motion and a second before moving on to a presentation. Do I have a motion? Thank you. And a second? Thank you. The town authorized the deposit of $2,032.11 from the Lister Education Restricted Fund to the Reappraisal Fund. And without objection, I will ask Martin Dole to address this particular item.
Good morning. The town presently has 38 funds, plus the general fund, highway fund is 40 funds. This fund, I do not know when it was created, but in the general fund budget, the Lister's department has a continuing education budget line. So we'd like to move the money from this fund that has not been used in my 6 years here into the reappraisal fund, as we know we need to do a town reappraisal in the next, as soon as possible actually. And this just helps a little bit of money that we don't have to raise as taxpayers' money.
Great. Are there any questions or debate on Article 3, which I will read again to see if there's any debate. So there is someone in the back. So we only hold on. We unfortunately excuse 1 second. We only have two mics. We've got one that's upstairs and the other one that is going to be going back and forth here, but we do need the mic, unfortunately, otherwise it's not captured by CATV. And okay, all right, thank you. Okay, are there any other, any additional debate on Article 3? Okay. Seeing none, Article 3, shall the town authorize the deposit of $2,032.11 from the Lister Education Restricted Fund to the Reappraisal Fund? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All opposed signify by saying nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 3. Article 4. Shall the town authorize the deposit of $1,879 from the Act 200 Planning Fund to the Cemetery Fund? I'm sorry, it says 1,000, right? I think is that the accurate amount? Okay. So, do I have a motion for Article 4? Okay. Okay. Do I have a second? Okay. Great. Article 4 has been moved and seconded. Shall the town authorize the deposit of $1,879 from the Act 250 Planning Fund to the Cemetery Fund? I'm sorry, from the Act, what did I say? Oh, thank you. It is a different law. So, let me try that again. Article 4. Shall the town authorize the deposit of $1,879 from the Act 200 Planning Fund to the Cemetery Fund? And without objection, we'll have Tom Kennedy from the Select Board address this article. And Tom, why don't you use this microphone here so we can leave the other one?
So before I begin, you're all probably wondering, well, what are we doing here? And what the Select Board has done is we've gone through all these restricted funds we have accounts for and see what the usage has been. And some of these funds we haven't been using, as it was previously stated, for a long time. This is one of them. This Act 200 fund was created in 1989 when the planning law in Vermont changed. So there was 3 years of funding that was given to towns to implement this fund. And so the Planning Commission now gets an annual budget, and so these funds have been lying dormant. So what we'd like to do is move it over to the Cemetery Fund, and the reason for that is we're starting to see a lot more interest, or actually demand, for folks that would like to bury their loved ones in some of these cemeteries that are around town. So this year we're hoping to start a pilot program of 1 or 2 cemeteries where we can start to inter people or look into doing that. So that's our reasoning for doing this. Not very much money, but it's a start.
Okay, so so we shouldn't do it quite as a question, but if you have a comment or a question. So, we now have debate on Article 4, and there you go. Wait, if you could just wait for a mic.
Jennifer Grant, clarification question.
They're closed, so not
So
quite sure the language
if
of
we
it.
zero them out, is the closure automatic? I guess that's maybe a question for Martin.
Yes, they're going to be closed.
Okay.
Closed.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on Article 4? Okay, now repeat the article. Article 4. Shall the town authorize a deposit of $1,879 from the Act 200 Planning Fund to the Cemetery Fund? All those in favor of Article 4, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 4. Now, with the start of Article 5, I want to talk a little bit about the next 3 articles. As those of you who are regulars at town meeting know, we as a community support social service and other support organizations around the Upper Valley. The decision to support those entities is made at town meeting. It is not one that is made by the select board. The tradition has been that if there is a new entity that is requesting funding and has petitioned to be considered for funding, we have separated it out as an individual article, and then the ones that have been funded in the past are grouped together under Article 7 as a whole. That does not mean that someone can't ask to separate out one of those particular lines as you are in the deliberation process, but that is how we have done this to date. So, Article 5, shall the town vote to appropriate $5,000 to support Ottauquechee Health Foundation? So, can I get a motion on Article 5? Okay, can I get a second? Great, thank you. The Article 5 has been moved and seconded. Article 5, shall the town vote to appropriate $5,000 to support Ottauquechee Health Foundation? Is there any discussion? Yes, if you can wait for the microphone. Please identify yourself.
Yes. Good morning. I'm Mark Boutwell, a Hartland resident, and I'm the board president of the Ottauquechee Health Foundation. And a minor correction, the Ottauquechee Health Foundation has been previously funded by the town of Hartland. It is not a new request for this organization, but when we request an increase in funding, we have to go back for a new petition, and thus this article. Thank you. Just very briefly, the Ottauquechee Health Foundation last year provided almost $70,000 in grants to Hartland residents. The Ottauquechee Health Foundation we provide grants to 9 towns. Hartland gets the second largest amount of money for grants. At an average of $865 per grant, that's almost 80 residents who have received grants in the last year from the Ottauquechee Health Foundation. And that's over 25%, let's see, yes, that's over 25% of the total granting that we give, Hartland gets. This request for $5,000 is only a 7% increase, or represents 7% of the total grants we give in Hartland. The Ottauquechee Health Foundation also gives, so we give individual grants for health-related needs such as dentistry, durable medical equipment. We also give community grants. We have in the past supported Aging in Hartland and the Hartland community nurses. We regularly receive referrals from the community nurses and the Hartland food shelf. So there's a lot of activity that the Ottauquechee Health Foundation does and supports the local residents of Hartland. Thank you very much.
Great. Is there any further discussion on Article 5? Yes? Okay. If you can wait for the mic. Mackenzie?
Hi, my name is Rebecca Genovese, and I'm kind of upset about this particular one because this is the organization that when things were flooding ahead of when the town was willing, able, I don't really know what the issue was, but things were already flooding, drainage was already failing, and properties were already getting inundated with water. And there was a deaf ear at the town. And this isn't my opinion because it was in the papers. Okay, we almost lost FEMA funding over it. But this was the group that supported those of us who had flooding in advance of the big day, of the big one. And this was the group that gave me personally hope that my house was not going to be full of mold and helped me put the pieces in order. And I thank also the health commissioner and the fire department for that. So this is an important group, folks, and things are going to get tighter, and this is going to be even more important. So thank you very much.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on Article 5? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Article 5, shall the town vote to appropriate $5,000 to support Ottauquechee Health Foundation? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 5. On to Article 6. Shall the town vote to appropriate $2,000 to support Hartland Community Arts? Do I have a motion for Article 6? Do I have a second? Seconded by Deborah LeQueer. So Article 6 has been moved. Shall the town vote to appropriate $2,000 to support Hartland Community Arts? Is there any discussion on Article 6 or anyone who would like to address this article?
Actually, I'm not a registered voter.
Without objection, if we can have a non-resident address this article.
I'm a tax-paying Hartland resident, but I'm still an alien. So that's the legal terminology. Yeah. My name is Chiho Kaneko. I'm a resident of Hartland, and I'm president of Hartland Community Arts. And the Hartland Community Art Board consists of 7 members currently. I've been on the board a little bit too long. A lot of things intervened, such as COVID. I want to say HCA was incorporated in 1992 officially as 501c3 organization, primarily to sponsor variety and holiday shows. Over the years, it was grown into hosting other performing arts events at Damon Hall right here, and also to co-hosting annual poetry fest at the library and at other events. And we also give scholarships to Hartland youth, and also through Hartland Elementary School, we give grants to drama club and in their various activities. Another aspect of HCA that you may not know is that the HCA actually owns and maintains Damon Hall's cultural assets. That includes the grand piano, which is assessed at roughly $30,000, and theatrical curtains that you see, and a little more about defunct theatrical lighting equipment. And so combined, our assessed assets, cultural assets, totaling to somewhere in the vicinity of $45,000. And maintaining such assets means that we have to also sometimes tune the piano at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, depending on what kind of event we host. And also trying to upgrade the theatrical lights before it burns down Damon Hall. And also, that's not a joke. HCA also, actually, HCA was conducting a fundraising campaign to upgrade the lights before the COVID. And obviously during COVID, we couldn't do any programming. And so all those efforts kind of petered down. Also, we were hit by an estimate of electricians' fee estimate in order to do the overhaul of theatrical lighting equipment. This is 5 years ago. It was $13,000. And that's not something a small organization can independently address, we realized. And currently our insurance premium that we pay monthly to cover all the assets and the liability for our events is $102 a month. So after serious discussion, we realized that it is time to ask the entire Hartland community to share the burden of maintaining Damon Hall's cultural assets. It's not something that I personally wanted to see happen, but reality is that this $2,000 that we are humbly asking for would support at least $1,200 of insurance premium and ASCAP fee, which is about $300 annually, which is basically copyright fees that we have to pay to national organization who would then dispense to musicians and writers. Even though we don't do shows, they automatically charge nonprofit organizations who have in the past done programs. And so the piano tuning, that's, if you tune piano once, that's over $100. And proudly, we sponsor Hartland Elementary School's drama club in various forms, and that's about $750 a year. So I guess $2,000 doesn't cover all that, but we will continue to do our own fundraiser effort, and hopefully maybe we'll also get enough money eventually to at least purchase LED lights for theatrical lighting, so that not only we save electricity for the town, but also it will be really more sustainable and safer. So speaking of fundraiser, I'd like to plug for an event that's coming up on March 16th right here. It's a matinee, and it's going to be a great show. We're hiring the Modern Times Puppet Theater, and I haven't seen it, but people who have seen said it's an unbelievably fun show. So please mark your calendar, March 16th, 3 p.m., right here. And so we have plans to present many more events at the library, thanks to Stacy, who's very proactive about cultural things. So please stay tuned for Poetry Fest in April, and this spring we're going to do botanical art workshops. So back to Damon Hall thing. We are really lucky to have Damon Hall, our town's symbol and venue for many cultural and social events. We hope Hartland will continue to nurture community arts for many years to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So is there any further discussion on Article 6? Any more discussion? Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Article 6, shall the town vote to appropriate $2,000 to support Hartland Community Arts? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 6. Okay, so Article 7, which, as my parliamentarian has mentioned, I am going to read more than once. Yeah, right, okay. We will. So I'm going to read it through once. I will then ask, without objection, not to read it a second or a third time, but we will get to that when we get to that. So, Article 7, shall the town vote to appropriate $84,482 to support social service agencies as follows. Aging in Hartland, $28,200. Junction Arts and Media, CATV, $3,000. Cover Home Repair, $1,500. Green Mountain Economic Development, $1,694. Green Mountain Retired Senior Volunteer Programs, RSVP, $200. Green Up Vermont, $200. Vermont Hartland Community Food Shelf, $500. Heartland Farmers Market, $2,000. Heartland Rescue Squad, $14,500. Headrest, $1,710. Healthcare and Rehabilitative Services of Southeastern Vermont, Inc., HCRS, $3,453. Mount Ascutney Prevention Partnership, $2,000. Public Health Council of the Upper Valley, $345. Senior Solutions, $1,500. Southeastern Vermont Community Action, SEVCA, $3,220. Special Needs Support Center of the Upper Valley, $3,700. The Family Place, $200. Tri-Valley Transit, $1,500. Vermont Center for Independent Living, $160. Visiting Nurse and Hospice, VNH, for Vermont and New Hampshire, $10,500. Volunteers in Action, $900. White River Council on Aging, $1,000. Windsor County Mentors, $2,000. Women's Information Services, Inc., $500. That is, do I have a motion to adopt Article 7? David Cooper moves. Do I have a second? Cheyenne Latimer seconds. So we have a motion and a second on Article 7. Without objection, I will not read Article 7 in its entirety again, other than shall the town vote to appropriate $84,432 to support social service agencies. And so without objection, I will not read the rest. Okay. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Yep, we're going to, so. Yes, if, yep, it is appropriate to.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nancy North. I'm one of your Hartland community nurses. Sorry, I got to get it up here. I'm one of your 2 community nurses, Nancy North. And last year we asked for a significant increase in funding. That has helped all of us to see a lot more clients this year. When I first started doing this, we had an average of 20 clients that we were seeing each month. What we've seen is an increase each year to the point now we're seeing 30 to 35 people every month. That's active clients. That's not including people that are inactive and we don't see, but sometimes need us still. And so it's been a big help to us to be able to see more people and put more time here into Hartland. Our goals this year are connecting more with the community partners for referrals, such as the fire department, EMS, hospitals, doctors. A couple things, Aging in Hartland. they began the Senior Cafe this year. It's the first Friday of every month at the library. It's been very well attended, and everyone seems to enjoy it a lot. So if you haven't come, you ought to try it. It's fun. The other thing that Aging in Heartland has done is in helping your neighbors is deliver wood multiple times, fixed steps and stoops outside. They've moved furniture, delivered chairs from one home to another, helped with fall yard cleanup, and many other things that I can't even remember at this point. Anyway, and their plan this year, they have a grant to start up the Friendly Visitor Program again. That kind of fell by the wayside with COVID, and it needs to come back again. And the other thing is, Aging in Heartland has sponsored numerous fundraisers during the year, silent auction, food truck, music stuff during the summer. And on Saturday, March 30th, there's an upcoming mud season dinner and dance here at Damon Hall. You'll see more of that listed into the listserv. But anyway, thank you again for helping me do a job that I really love. It's probably one of the best nursing jobs, coming into your homes and helping you to be where you need to be. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any more for Hartland residents, please? More discussion on Article 7.
Sure. Morning. I'm Christopher Scherer, a short-time Hartland resident that we moved up in 2022. My wife, Nina, is a Hartland native, so it was only a matter of time before we moved up here. I'm a web designer developer, and I've dealt with a lot of nonprofit organizations in the 12 years I've been doing this. And my most recent is the Special Needs Support Center in the Upper Valley. And I've dealt with them for about 4 to 5 months, doing paid and donation work, helping them with their donation form. And during that time, I've seen the great things that they're doing, the events that they're planning, and the activities that they provide to special needs children to enrich their lives. And it's not just because they're my most recent client, but also because I can see that the work that they do is much needed up here. And just in a discussion I had with a resident the other day, he kind of opened my eyes as a new resident of Hartland to the greater problem where this is much needed. So I just am showing up today to show my support for them.
Okay, thank you. Any more discussion on Article 7 by residents? Yes? Here.
Bruce Renfro. Just have a question about the $2,000 that's being allotted for the Hartland Farmers Market. My understanding is that the Hartland Farmers Market is no longer in Hartland, it's in Windsor. And how is that $2,000 being used?
I will repeat the essence of the question. The question is about the Hartland Farmers Market, $2,000. There was a question about it no longer being in Hartland and how that money is being used. Does that summarize? Okay, and if we could have someone who's a resident, hold on, we've got someone down here who's offered to speak.
Joe Perrin, vendor and board member for the Hartland Farmers Market. And that money will be, well, first off, let me tell you, we are coming back to Hartland right across from the library down in the field. We'll start it up, I believe, May 31st. Yes, May 31st. So in conjunction with that, that $2,000 goes a long way. I don't have a list of everything it will be used for, but part of that list will include new tables. We're hoping to get some picnic tables down there to encourage more family-type events. It will be used for some of the payments that we need to make, insurances, I believe, and a few other things to help our programming. Trying to think what else we have. We have a bunch of things on that list, but nothing comes to mind. Pop Club, yes, Pop Club, which is our special events program right there that addresses kids and getting them involved with agriculture and what we do in Hartland. So I guess I'm going to leave it at that.
Great. In the interest of that particular anyone else like to speak to that subject? No. No. There's a upstairs. Yep.
Linda Genovese, I'm a resident here in Hartland. I just wondered if the select board has thought about any ceiling to this article that maybe would be included in the town voting, because if I understand you correctly, this 84,000 now will have perhaps the 5,000 that was voted in Article 5 and the 2,000 in Article 6 join that list for next year. And I just wondered if they had entertained some ceiling that they would top this off at.
Okay. Is there anyone on the select board who would like to respond to that? So let's bring the mic here. Why don't you, we'll just do this.
I'm not an attorney, but it's our understanding if there is a petition made that it is not up to us to decide whether to fund something at the full amount as requested or not, that it's up to you folks to make that decision. And as our moderator said, you can break out certain items within this list of items that you would like to support or support at a lesser amount. But I may be wrong, but it is our understanding we do not have any control over what is asked for.
Is there any further discussion on Article 7? Yep, in the balcony. Get you a mic real quick.
Hi, thank you, Becca Warren. Just to follow up on that question, if the town voters did wish to establish a cap or some kind of rule about this article and what's contained in it, how would that need to occur in terms of town policy and statute?
We would talk to both the Vermont League of Cities and Town and legal counsel for the town to get an idea of what we can and can't do on that issue. And we can certainly bring it up at one of our future select board meetings to find out, but we can ask John, our town manager, to look into that for us. But right now, we don't have the answer to that.
Any further discussion from residents on Article 7? If there is no more discussion on Article 7, no, I think we're not going to have non-residents unless there's a question about a specific issue. We're going to continue. So yes. Hold on, Kinsey, mic, please.
So I'm curious to know, were you going to speak about one of the organizations? Yeah, were you going to speak about one of the organizations? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we let the representative from the family place speak.
Okay, so I think the motion is so without objection, to allow for a non-resident to speak in regards to the family place. Yep, McKinsey. No. I'm going to do it without. I'm going to ask unless there's objection. If there's no objection, we will continue. Okay. Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm here in a thoroughfare. I represent the family place, which is up the road on Route 5, and we serve in 14 different categories, about 1,200 families in this community, and we thank you very much for your support. It makes a big difference to us, and I've enjoyed being here for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion on Article 7? And are you a resident?
Thank you. I am not a resident of Hartland.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna please ask. Wait, we're trying. If there's a question, I mean, again, if anyone would like to hear additional addresses from different folks who are on here, we can continue down that road without objection. But for the most part, the priority should be for residents to be discussing the articles unless there's a direct question about one of the items. Yeah. Yes?
What organization are you from?
No, okay, can we please?
I'd
Okay.
like to make a motion that we allow the representative from Cover to make a statement.
Thank you. Okay. So we're not going to do a motion, but there has been a request to hear about information about Cover. So without objection, we will ask a non-resident of Hartland to address the issue of Cover.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Helen Hung, the Executive Director of Cover, and I will keep this very short. I just wanted to say a quick thank you for the annual support, and that as part of our 25th anniversary, we are encouraging folks to volunteer on our home repair projects, which is a core part of our mission. And on urgent home repair projects, we've done 4 in Hartland last year, and that has been about our typical amount. So if you'd like to get to know your neighbors, that is a wonderful way to volunteer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any more discussion on Article 7 before we move to a vote? Is there any more discussion? Seeing none, we are going to go to a vote on Article 7, and without objection, I am not going to read the entire list. It is presented here in front of you, but it is, shall the town vote to appropriate $84,482 to support social service agencies as is followed and listed up on the screen and in your book. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, the ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 7. Article 8. Shall the voters authorize the general fund and highway fund expenditures of $3,679,380, of which $2,967,414 shall be raised by taxes? Do I have a motion on Article 8? Colleen Spence moves Article 8. Do I have a second? Sarah Bruce seconds Article 8. We have a motion and a second on Article 8. At this time, I'm going to have the chair of the select board make some general comments about this. Oh, sorry. Okay. So Article 8. Shall the voters authorize the general fund and highway fund expenditures of $3,679,380, of which $2,967,414 shall be raised by taxes? So with that motion on the floor, I'm going to turn it over to the chair of the select board to make some remarks, and then we will move to the town manager without objection, since he is not a resident of the town of Hartland, to be able to do a more detailed budget presentation. So.
I wanted to first say that John and Nikki's household must be one very busy household with the chair of the school board and the fire chief. Okay. Okay. Before John's presentation, I want to take a few minutes to offer some insights to major projects that the board will be working on this year. These are all important capital projects and each have significant cost implications. Again, these projects are in the future and we'll be talking about planning this year. We know that the Foster Meadow complex is a key to our town. On any given spring or fall afternoon, the playing fields are active. The town oven has been a great contribution, thanks to the oven committee. The library continues to offer more exciting services and often serves as a community meeting place. The walking path was resurfaced with the help of an anonymous donor. Thank you if you are here. The community garden thrives. The play sets and ball courts are well used. The summer music concert series is well attended. Truly, Foster Meadow is a key part of our community. The rec center is part of this hub. In case folks did not know, the rec center houses and offers the cooperative preschool program. My daughter went there. After school programs as well as summer rec programs, adult fitness classes, and office space for staff as well as other community uses. Many areas of the building need work or ADA or fire code upgrades. Using ARPA funds, the select board has engaged a firm to look at the needs of the rec center. The initial report has identified many issues. The firm will be coming back to the board with cost estimates and a suggested priority to make the changes. Again, coming not this year, but in the years to come. The same firm is also studying Damon Hall. This is sad for me to read this. We have to stop the water penetration for the health of the building as well as the staff. Many other issues are known and will be identified with a cost estimate to fix these issues. I'm getting depressed here reading this. Currently, we have a committee looking at the schoolhouse in North Hartland's Courier Park. The committee will offer suggestions to the board for the future of that building. Finally, working with the trustees of the library and our regional planning commission, John and I are working on obtaining grants from MERP, which is the Municipal Energy Resilience Program, and the State Capital Grant Fund, which are ARPA monies that were set aside by the state for libraries. Once again, we have a list of needs for the library from infrastructure to ADA access. These grants are in the application phase. We hope, but we do not know if we will receive them. John will now talk about this year's budget, as well as touching base on the Ottauquechee Road engineering study, which is the other long-range piece, as well as the North Hartland Covered Bridge structural analysis. That's the southern bridge of the two. So I imagine your select board will be very busy this year, keeping up with these major things, as well as the week-to-week and month-to-month operations. Thank you.
Great. So without objection, we will have John, our town manager, give a more detailed presentation on the budget in this article.
Great. Thanks, Matt. So just real quick before we start, you've heard my name. I'm John Brooker Campbell. I'm the new town manager in Hartland. I've been here for a month. So we'll try to get through this. So just a little bit real quick. I live in Wethersfield with my wife and our son. He's in 2nd grade. We've been largely in Vermont since 2008. We took a brief hiatus to Alaska, but hightailed it back when we found out we were having a baby. So so we've been here since then, and we love it here, and I'm really happy to be in Hartland. So without further ado, Martin. So before we get into the budget, we're going to recap kind of some of the work that was done in 2023. So this is the intersection. This was the big project in the past 18 months or so. So that's the picture on the right is what it looked like previously. And the select board went through an engineering firm, VHB. Go ahead. This is the final plans. It's a little hard to see, but we went from kind of a clunky intersection to a 4-way stop intersection. We have some pictures of the work along the way, just so you know what you got for your money. So we have nice new granite curbs. We have a buried electrical vault, which is directly across the street from us. I will ask you to take note of the buried conduit that's coming out of the vault. We will come back to that in the future. We successfully relocated the monuments. So there it was under construction. There it is in its new home a little further up the street. There's new sidewalks. Obviously, they don't look quite like that. They're less pointy, more, more sidewalk form. But this is right in front of Damon Hall. There's the sidewalk markings, the crossway markings, and indicating the final project. And there it is. There's the final intersection. We are almost all done. Almost. So there's a few things that we have our contractor coming back for this spring. They need to come back to make sure that the trees that were planted bloom. There's some sidewalk repairs across the street from us that need to be done for ADA compliance. But these are real small ticket punch list items that we hope to get done this spring. One of the larger outstanding items is to have Green Mountain Power remove the existing telephone poles. Martin, if you go back a slide, actually, you can see that pole right square in the middle. Somebody advised that I take this photo out because the pole is there and it's a bit of a sore subject, but it is happening, I promise. So we are coordinating with the telecommunications companies and Green Mountain Power to remove those poles. We sent a letter last week to the telecommunication companies saying, by April 1st, provide us with your plan of action, and construction will be completed by July 3rd. So that is moving forward. Go ahead. So Phil touched on a couple of these already. We do have some projects underway in 2023 and on the docket in 2024. So we have 2 contracts out, one to do a study of the Ottauquechee Road to look at why the road is in such rough shape. They're going to be out there doing some borings in the next couple of months, trying to get an idea of what's beneath the road and why it's failing in the way it is. So we hope to have a final report from them sometime this summer, which will identify, short, medium, long-term fixes. As Phil mentioned, we're also doing a study to get a proper load rating for the southern North Hartland Bridge. VTrans, the Vermont Agency of Transportation, is working with their own consultant to do a study on the northern bridge, or the older bridge. We hope to be doing some public outreach in the spring once we get those load ratings finalized. And then JASW, that is the architecture firm that was hired to do a report on Damon Hall and the rec center, really looking at, again, the water infiltration issues, some of the ADA issues that exist at both buildings. Go ahead, Martin. And the stairs, et cetera. So looking at some of the larger issues there. We do have an additional project that was funded with the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA dollars, that the town received. We are doing replacing the old stone culvert on Jennyville Road this summer. That is out to bid right now. We hope to have a contractor selected in the next month or so. And that is the culvert that is just west of Densmore Hill. So now we will get into the budget. That was last year. Now let's talk about this year. So this is the highway. This is the highway fund expenses for this coming year. On the column on the right is the one that folks might care about the most, and that's highlighted in yellow. So we'll go through this real quick line by line. There's been a decrease in $25,000 in administration. That it was a change in personnel and a subsequent change in insurance. So we lost somebody who was on a family insurance plan, hire somebody else. There's a savings to us there. Summer maintenance, there's an increase, $26,000. That is really the cost of doing maintenance. That is being driven largely by guardrails. They're just more expensive. Things are more expensive, unfortunately. We're putting additional money into paving and resurfacing, up to $260,000. That gets us about 3/4 of a mile of road, true repaving. So, $250,000 per 3/4 of a mile. So we're allocating some more money there. Winter maintenance, that's a change. That's not overtime. That's just a change in how the winter maintenance budget is formed. We look at the past 3 years. What did they take to do the plowing? Each person, who does the sidewalks, who does the paved roads, who does the dirt roads. So that is the change that we're seeing there. And then additional money for equipment. And that's not new equipment, that's both equipment repairs and new equipment. So some total highway budget is going up just under 5%, or 4.85% total. Revenues remain the same, kind of year over year. We get a couple of pots of money from the state, from the Vermont Agency of Transportation. We do try to offset some of our costs through grants. Again, we're using the ARPA dollars for the Jennyville Road culvert, but there's some real promising grant opportunities out there for other culvert projects, bridge projects. So that is the revenue. So it's relatively straightforward. We'll jump into the general fund. So there's 2 slides. It's a lot of numbers, I understand. We'll try to touch on the ones that are the most significant change. And we will come back to highlight some of those. So you'll see that total assessment is going up $111,000, and we will get to why that's the substantive change. You'll see that we are not funding this year the ordinance administration position, so we're saving $20,000 there. There's been go ahead, Martin. There's another big jump in the Hartland Public Libraries. Again, we will touch on that on the next slide, but so just take a look, and relatively small incremental changes across the board. So some of the big drivers for the general fund expenses, though. So assessment is going up just over 30%, and that is for policing. And I'm gonna come back to policing in just a minute. There was an increase in the animal control officer salary. It's a big percentage increase, but a small dollar amount increase, and that is how we are funding and how we're paying our animal control officer. Again, with the big percentage increase, but small dollar increase for the North Hartland School, that's just keeping that building safe and warm over the winter. And then the Hartland Public Library saw an 11% increase, and that's, again, much like with the highway decrease, the library moved to 4 full-time staff. There's a subsequent cost and change in insurance for those as well. Go ahead. So policing, the big ticket item this year. So there was a 2022, 2023, there was the policing committee that was formed, and thank you to all of those who were on that committee. So we did reach out to 4 separate police agencies to inquire about police services in Hartland. We got various responses from each one of those agencies, and we are hopefully moving forward. So we did have the discussion because the town has been under contract with the Vermont State Police for years. We did talk to them about, are they interested in that rural policing as they have provided in the past? Due to their own staffing issues, they are not able to continue in that role, but they will absolutely be here to provide supplemental support. If you call 911, if there's significant issues in Hartland, the state police will be here. So one of the things that came out of the committee was really looking at 3 specific items for moving forward with policing in Hartland. One, we want to see an increase in response time. We want to see a different type of policing that is brought to the town. We want to see those community-oriented police officers, so folks who might stop at the store to grab a cup of coffee, folks who are in the town, stop and chat with folks as well. And then again, looking at the level of training that we're going to get in terms of the officers who are providing service in town. So again, that's the big driver for the budget increase this year. It's a change in just over $100,000 for police services. So again, if you just look on the column on the right, the budget that was passed in 2024 was $1.9 million. Our proposed budget is just over $2 million. So fairly insignificant change, but again, largely being driven by policing and then the changes at the library in terms of staffing. So what does all of that mean for you? So what that means is that it was a 6.2% increase, and 6.22% increase in the budget, or a change in $130,000 or so. So for you, a property owner in the town of Hartland, it means that budget, with all of the appropriations that just passed, your tax rate is going to be $700.20 per $100,000 of assessed value. That is a change of $13 per $100,000 over last year. So again, $700.20 per $100,000 of assessed value. So that is Article 8, and again, we want to do questions at this time?
Yeah. So
Great.
So I will repeat. No, I will not repeat Article 8. I already did. Thank you. So what is there any more discussion on Article 8? And those can include questions, and without objection, we'll allow the town manager to respond to those questions. So, discussion. Bettina, and let me share this one.
Hi, I'm Bettina Reed. On your slide about the highway fund, there was nothing in the line for gravel resurfacing, and I can't imagine some of the roads don't need some gravel resurfacing, so why is it that way, and what are your plans there?
Well, we continue to do gravel resurfacing. Bill, Bill happens to be sitting right in front of you, who might be better suited to answer that question.
That's because that is under a different, hardpack is under a different line item, I believe.
So hardpack is under summer maintenance. So again, we're out there doing gravel resurfacing. It's just not shown in that specific, it's not shown specifically. Sure. So currently we are under contract with 2 police agencies. One, we are still under contract with the Vermont State Police like we were last year. They're providing us with as much service as they can. And we are also signed a supplemental contract with the Windsor County Sheriff's Office, who has been providing the more day-to-day police services in the town of Hartland over the past few months.
Yes. Oh, so, so the Vermont State Police is continuing for this year, or will they not be continuing after this year? And if so, will then the budget go down, or are we just going to be policed by the Windsor Sheriff's Department after that? It's just,
So I think what the question is what is the implications of the state police contract going away, and what is the process moving forward?
correct. Thank you for putting that so succinctly.
Correct. So moving forward, this proposal shows an allocated 40-hour-a-week police agency providing police services in the town of Hartland. Our state police contract is decreasing. They are just unable to provide that service. We decrease the hours allocated to the constable to show the increase in the projected new police agency that would be providing service in town. Does that answer your question?
Not really.
So we are under contract with the state police through June 30th. July 1 will start the new contract. We are not under contract with anybody yet. We are still trying to finalize those details.
That raises more questions, it's true. I don't understand. So how do we know it's going to be 30% more if we don't even know who it's definitely going to be yet?
So we have a proposal with a contracted amount per hour, and what that 40 hours per week at that rate is the difference in is the budget that is proposed. We just don't have a signed contract. That is still in the works, so we don't have. At this point, I don't believe we should be saying we are going to be in contract with X, Y, or Z.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to move on to other questions. So I want to I think there was some hands. Somebody here.
Jill Lloyd, just a question. When you had the slide up for the policing, you had 3 areas that you were looking at. And just for the sheriff's department, just the level of training of the police officers and what kind of policing is going to be happening. Just is that being looked at with who you are contracting with? Yeah. And
Yeah.
then also is a question, I guess I'm pretty ignorant as to at the school, is there was a police officer there. Is that part of this whole thing or is that separate?
So yeah, I can answer both your questions. Yes, there's an SRO. There's a school resource officer at the Hartland School. That is, I believe they are a Windsor police officer that is funded not through this. Now I forgot the first question. I was so focused on the second one because I knew the answer to it.
Just the level of training and type of policing that you're looking into.
Yes. So yes, that is one of the things that we are looking at with the agencies that provided a response. Like, can you provide, level 2? Can you provide how many level 3 officers can you provide? What does that look like for us in the town of Hartland? And can we get, who comes to the town? Do we get the same 2, 3, or 4 officers or whoever it might be on a rotation coming through town? So yes, the report is driving the contract negotiations with the policing agencies.
Yeah, so I guess part of what type of policing are we looking at? More like traffic, all that I assume is being looked at. What type of things are we concerned about for needs?
Correct. I mean, there's been, folks are, my understanding, again, having been here for a month, folks are concerned about speeding, specifically on, some of the primary roads here in town. So these are the things those are the things that we are looking at. We are not, however, going to be necessarily directing whatever police agency we contract with in terms of directing them in how to police in the town. They are the professionals, and we would leave it to their discretion with our input and guidance.
Hi, I'm Chris Nippenberg. I was part of the policing committee, and for folks who are interested, there is a policing committee report, and the minutes themselves of the meetings we had were quite extensive and detailed to give folks background on all the issues that we considered. So I think, some of this is a discussion too. We had a public meeting, and we also had it open for folks to come in as well. In terms of the issues that we talked about, we wanted coverage in terms of just the general kinds of criminal concern issues, drugs and other issues that were there. Traffic has always been a big concern, and any of you who have seen me on the listserv, you've seen my name always moaning about that. But those were some of the issues, but when we made our final recommendations, the idea was that we would recommend the type of training we wanted for our police officers and the kind of, the whole overall feel that we wanted for it, and then it was up to the select board in doing, as you've said, the hiring to fulfill those pieces, as opposed to having an oversight committee to tell the officers how to act. We wanted community policing that was responsive, and we wanted officers that were trained at the highest level to the best degree that we could make that happen. Not every department that was approached had that access to that level of training, although some were working up to that as well. And there's not a whole lot of choice. If you've ever been to a restaurant, there's not a whole lot of folks there for servers anymore. Getting people to work in any industry right now, we're running out of folks. There aren't a lot of police officers as well, so those are some of the constraints the select board is under. But those were some of the considerations, and I urge you to please read through the report. It's short and sweet, but also the minutes are much more detailed to see what responses and issues we try to address on behalf of the citizens of Hartland. You would find it under the committees. That would be on the town, in the town website. You would look under the committee, and it would be the Safety and Policing Committee, and those pieces would be there. And if not, I think maybe Martin or someone in the town office could direct you, or John could.
It's definitely on the website.
Great.
I guess this is Rebecca Genovese again. I guess I'm not convinced that we've really heard a clear answer to Gretchen Ocasio's question that was asked to begin this discussion, in that I've not heard or seen a clear dollar amount that a $45,000 budgeted amount for policing is going up to, nor can we seem to be able to vote today on who that's going to be, and we just learned that we won't be in charge of how and what they're policing for. So my real question is this: how was it decided to throw that many unknowns into the general budget and not as a separate item before the general voter population today? Because I mean, you're talking 45,000 to what? For what?
So half of that I can answer. So the total policing budget is $142,600. So there's an increase over what we've been paying previously. So we know that $142,600 gets us 40 hours a week of dedicated police service in the town of Hartland. I don't believe, and I would defer to the policing committee if you want to answer this in additional detail, we are in the business of directing them on how to police in the town of Hartland. Here's the things that are our concerns. We leave it to you as the professionals to implement our concerns on the ground. Yeah, it's.
So let me just start with the dollar amount. The dollar amount is an appropriation. It's not necessarily an expenditure. So we are still in the process of receiving requests for proposals from area police departments and also from Windsor County Sheriff's Department. And what we did to come up with that number is we looked at other communities that are contracting with local police, one being West Windsor that has a contract with the town of Windsor. The committee, as you know, there are different levels of policing, i.e. training, and we made it very clear in our report that we wanted a certain level of policing, and that we just didn't want entry-level folks be doing the policing. So we are going to have control over that. We also, Mandy Potter did a great job. She looked at all the police reports over the last number of years, and there are some areas where we have issues in this town, and we will have that in our contract as far as what types of investigations and so on. Believe it or not, there's a considerable amount of domestic violence in this community. And so this is one of the reasons why response time was so important to us. So we thought about trying to have a separate article, but we just weren't ready to be able to do that at this time. And so we just thought we would put it in the budget and hope to have the kind of conversation we're having right now. We're not hiding anything from anyone. Once we do get a contract, we certainly are going to open up to the public. You can be able to look at it and the like. But as Chris Nippenberg says, our world for getting consultants to do this or contractors to do this is fairly small because everybody is struggling with maintaining the police. And I also wanted to say is we are continuing to still have state police presence in town. That is not going away. Does that help?
Is there anyone who has not spoken on Article 8 that would like to do so? Okay, then we can go to
just a question of whatever police department or that is contracted with, will there be a way to see what outcomes there are what types of things that they responded to and what types of requests and how? Okay, that's my question.
Jill, both Chris and Tom referenced that we have incidents reports that have been given to us by the state police, and they are very, very detailed. That's how we know how domestic violence trickled to the top there. So we will be following that, and you know, this is a big change for Hartland. The Vermont State Police years ago were the standard for rural policing. They're having pressure both at the state level to become specialists in crime prevention and not necessarily do rural policing. So we're, as Tom said, we had 4 RFPs out, and we're just trying to put everything together right now.
Okay. Is there more discussion on Article 8?
Will this police, some of what they're going to be doing is traffic control things. Will it generate any income for the town? Will it generate any income for the town, tickets or things like that? Is there potential if there's a traffic violation? You are.
Okay, all right. Is there any more discussion, naming other towns or otherwise, on Article 8? Any more discussion? If not, we will move to a vote. Article 8. Shall the voters authorize the general fund and highway fund expenditures of $3,679,380, of which $2,967,414 shall be raised by taxes? All those in favor of Article 8, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 8. Article 9. Shall the town vote to use funds from the Capital Reserve Fund up to $150,000 for the purchase and installation of lights for the Three Corners intersection project? Any grant money for this project received will be returned to the Capital Reserve. Do I have a motion for Article 9? Bruce Renfield moves the article. Do I have a second? Pat, say your name. Thank you. Article 9 has been moved and seconded. Shall the town vote to use funds from the Capital Reserve Fund up to $150,000 for the purchase and installation of lights for the Three Corners intersection project? Any grant money for this project received will be returned to the Capital Reserve. That you'll be presenting? Okay. So again, without objection, our town manager will do a brief presentation on this article.
Sorry, I tried to run away. I forgot we had this article. Mark, go ahead. There's just 2 slides here. So as you just saw, we're asking for up to $150,000 for the installation of lights. Lighting was not a part of the original Three Corners project. So this wasn't something that we didn't overspend somewhere else. Lighting was not a part of the original proposal. And having lights is really critical for the safety of residents and kids who are using the new sidewalks, the new crosswalks, to get from the school to the Three Corners or potentially down to the library as well. This is just an overview of the intersection. Really, we're looking at lights on every end of the crosswalks, and then a few more in the triangle kind of kitty corner to us. By the retaining wall, it gets a little dark in that area. There's a proposal right now somewhere between 8 and 11. I think that's a discussion that the board will be having in the coming months as we go forward as to whether we do just the intersection, or we extend it a little further down to the library crosswalk as well.
Okay, so Article 9, is there any more discussion? Start here.
Bruce Renfro, 2 questions. Number one, the lighting that's being proposed, does it meet the standards of dark sky lighting? And question 2, how will these funds, where will the funds come from to repay the reserve fund?
So to the first question, will they meet the dark sky standard? I don't know the answer to that, but it's certainly something we can look at. Yeah. Oh, yes. The board says yes, they will meet the dark sky standard.
Yeah, the engineering firm. First off, there's a lot of finger pointing on this as to why it was left. Why was this left out of the whole project? And we could go on and on and on about that. The engineering firm did, for free, do the total engineering report, photometrics, as well as state approval for the type of lights that are needed. There would be LED lights, and walk the streets of downtown White River, you can see 3 or 4 different poles and light fixtures, and we're trying to still piece together what our next steps are with what we'll need. We did catch at the last minute this issue, so we have laid conduit without wire underneath the road and underneath the sidewalks, so it will nothing hopefully will need to be redug on that part. So.
Additional discussion? So in the back? Wait, hold on. There's someone in the back. No, hold on. So right in the back, please. No, you can't, because they can't hear you in the
Hi,
recording.
I'm just wondering.
Name, please.
Candace Jones.
Thank
I
you.
live right down the street, so I go through a lot, driving my dog, with walking. I haven't really noticed a problem with the lights the way they are now. So that's my first comment. The other is, if the lights do get put in, is it going to be done at the same time as they're taking out this pole? Or are they going to be 2 separate interruptions in the intersection?
It would likely be 2 separate interruptions in the intersection. Hopefully the removal of the poles should be relatively seamless. Once the telecommunications companies get their wires off of the old poles, Green Mountain Power can come in and pull the old poles. And then the lighting will be separate, further down the road from there.
Like how further down the road?
Well, it's a fair question. We don't know. I mean, currently we are still looking at what options we have in terms of lighting. Are we going to lease the poles? Are we going to buy the poles? What does the light look like? There's choices that the board has to make moving forward before we can say, oh, these will be done in 3 months or 4 months or 8 months.
Okay, it's not dark there in the intersection. There are lights there, so I'm a little not sure that we need to spend that kind of money to put in more.
So Martin just made a good point. The poles that have lights on them are coming out as a part of the pole removal. So there will not be lights, right? So hence the need for new lights.
Well, that's an important thing to know.
That's excellent.
There is a hand raised in the balcony. Yep. Go ahead.
So why can't we just leave the light poles that are there with the lights that are on them and not spend all the extra money?
Can you please
Lori
identify?
Allen.
Thank you.
So again, it is my understanding that there was a desire to have the poles removed in terms of like beautification from the Three Corners project, right? We don't want to be looking at these as many telephone poles now that the project has been done. So those poles are coming out. We're going to need new streetlights. They will be more ornamental. They will be be nicer to look at as well. And Phil made a good point. Like if you're in downtown White River, you know, they have a good example of what we potentially would be looking at.
Additional discussion? Yes? Yep.
Steve Allen. I was just wondering, isn't that a state road out there? Shouldn't the state be paying for those lights?
We did the project. We then own the lighting of the intersection and the crosswalks.
Is the state demanding that we put those lights in, or is it just the town?
I do not believe that there is a demand from the state of Vermont to put lights in, but it is a safety issue for folks using the intersection and the new sidewalks.
So exactly, we don't even know what the cost is going to be to put the new lights in, but you're asking for $150,000.
We are asking for up to $150,000 based on some feedback that we have gotten from Green Mountain Power in terms of costs of the lights.
Thank you.
I did see another hand up in the balcony right behind you. Yep.
Tony Vendetti. I was just interested in who's going to pick out the lights. Who's the artistic eye that's going to pick out the lights?
You really want to answer this? Okay. Does someone from the select board want to answer this particular? I see. Bravery knows no bounds. Anyway, John, there you are.
I'll take a stab at it. I'm new. What do I have to lose? There's not going to be an entire suite of options. What it will boil down to, from our understanding, is that they will say, here's A, B, or C. Really, there's not 25 options to look at. It's a couple of options. The board will discuss them in open select board meetings, and if there's feedback on the proposals once we have it, please participate in future select board meetings.
Okay, there seems to be another comment. Hold on. So on the other side of the balcony, all the way over. Careful, Chris. There you go. Okay.
Thank you.
It's on. It's on.
Okay. So I've got two questions. Christopher Mayer. My first question is, does our passing this article decrease our chances of getting a grant because the town has already appropriated the funds? So it says that any funds raised by grants will offset and go back into the capital fund. I don't know how grants work in that regard, so I'm just curious about that.
If anything, it will do the opposite. It will increase our chances of receiving grants because we have, shown local participation and match that we could use for those grants.
Okay. And the second is a more practical question, which is, it sounds like a beautification process, a project that's more to beautify the intersection than to increase the lighting, because it's already been pointed out we have lighting. I understand that. My question is, will the lighting improve or be the same as it is now?
We do have a study from a lighting designer to say this is the appropriate amount of lights that you need for public safety at these crosswalks. I don't know that we have a study to say what the lights are now, but what we will have will be appropriate for the intersection and for public safety moving forward.
I'm anticipating hearing people say that the lighting was better before we spent all the money and ended up.
That possibility does exist, yes.
It'll be on the list, sir.
Okay, in the back, Kenzie. Hold on. I'm sorry. We had. Okay, I called on Jim first, so wait one sec.
And you can all hear me?
Yep.
So I think it's worth looking at the lighting project. I feel like we're a little early on it because we don't have a firm proposal. We haven't done a public hearing, and we have so many other projects that are critical to be funded, especially the rec center, which has life safety issues and houses a daycare. And the town is now on notice that we have life safety issues in that building. So I feel like if we had a proposal, did public hearings, then brought it to the town for a vote, that might be a better option.
Okay. Is there further discussion on Article 9? We had a person who had not spoken. Yes?
That reflects my concern as well. Mike Van Buren.
You don't have a comment. Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone who hasn't spoken yet who would like to comment on this article? Right here, please.
Hi, Chris Scher again. I just want to convey my experience section in that I was walking to Three Corners Market one night, and there was a gentleman who had pulled up to the intersection with his pickup truck, and I really thought that where I was standing, the lighting was okay, but felt a little inadequate. But he flashed his lights, and I said, "Oh, he saw me." So it seems like the lights at that particular intersection are working. So that's all.
Okay. Are there further comments on Article 9 from anyone who has not yet commented on Article 9? Yep.
Hi, Rebecca Genovese. I agree with the fact that, you know, it's not that dark down here. My question also, though, is that the majority of the space that we created in this realignment, the pocket parks or parking or whatever you want to call it, is up against private properties. So if those private properties have lighting and the plaza has lighting and Main Street here where the people are dog walking has lighting, exactly what is open in Hartland after dark? I just don't see the need, and I agree with Jim, Mr. Riley, that we are a little premature on this. Second part, this is a question. Are we going to prioritize and have we seriously looked at daylight-sensitive solar lighting? I light up my whole driveway and entryway to my house with $6 annually. Okay, that would be we wouldn't be paying power then also. There's been great advances in solar lighting. I would like that to be part of the looking, I guess.
Okay.
I'm Phil Hobby. I guess there are three things. Solar lighting, I think we're all fans of solar lighting. Our energy committee was certainly on top of that. Both the engineering firm as well as the state are not ready to support solar lights. If you turn off Sykes Avenue at the corner of the post office and Mascoma Bank, I can't remember what the name. Okay, there is one solar light there, and what the research has shown is that it doesn't shine in November and on certain days. So, and they're double the cost of a powered light. Second, my colleague mentioned that the select board hasn't done research. We actually have done a lot of research, and we have cost for the wire, cost for poles, and so on. But we have to bring it all together. And we as a select board voted to bring this to the vote today, so we're very aware of it and want to move forward. And third and final, I came out of an event here recently, maybe it was the school board meeting, and I had trouble seeing the edge of the intersection. So my sight's good, my hearing's shot, but my sight is still good. So we're talking about lights at the pedestrian crossings. We're not talking about lights in the parking areas. So those are my comments.
Okay. Is there any further discussion of Article 9? Yep.
Jill Lloyd. I live in downtown Hartland here. Having the crosswalks now has been great. I feel like my life is much safer crossing the streets now. But having, it's all been redesigned, and so the lighting where it is right now is not. I mean, I think to have adequate lighting for pedestrians, we are going to need to have new lighting, which is what they're looking at. We have the park there, and crossing when there is, as a pedestrian, to have adequate lighting, I think is really really important. A lot of people, and I live on Route 12, and I can tell you there's a lot of people who walk their dogs on the sidewalk. That sidewalk is used a lot, even in the evening times.
Okay. We have additional comments over here. Discussion on Article 9.
Sherry Clark. I would just like to remind people, thank you, that personal responsibility for their own safety is also important. Coming down here at the school budget informational meeting and watching people leave after that in all the dark clothing that they were wearing, they cannot be seen. So now, I mean, when I come into town, I have my fluorescent vest on, and I also carry a flashlight. So just a reminder that you're first in line for your own public safety when you leave your property. Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 9.
Ione Minot. I'm just wondering whether the existing lighting has to go away as part of the burying of the power, or for whatever. I assume that it's old technology and it uses more energy than new lighting would, and it might not be as good for the dark skies concept. So there's room for improvement, but I just want to be clear, is there some point where these existing lights are just going to stop being there and we'll all get to experience it with bad lighting and then say, oh yeah, actually new lights are good?
We will get to experience with no lights when those lights are removed with the power poles. Yes.
That's what I thought.
Okay, is there further discussion on Article 9? The balcony? I think we have two. Do we have two people or just one? Okay. Yep.
Hi, Sean King. Just a quick question. How much grant money would you expect to get back from this?
So, as much as we can is the answer. We don't have any grants right now. We are certainly actively looking for them to help offset the costs of the lighting in the intersection. So, as many and as much as we can get is the answer.
Just a guess, a realistic guess?
I don't have one.
Thank you.
Further discussion on Article 9. So,
I call the question.
Okay, the question has been called, meaning to end debate. This is a non-debatable question. You cannot debate whether to end debate. I know that's hard to believe. But it does require a second. Is there a second to the motion? I will assign it to Gordon. Gordon Richardson seconds. This takes a 2/3 vote to end debate on Article 9. All those in favor of ending debate on Article 9, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Therefore, we are on to a vote on Article 9. Shall the town vote to use funds from the Capital Reserve Fund up to $150,000 for the purchase and installation of lights for the Three Corners intersection project? Any grant money for this project received will be returned to the Capital Reserve. Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it, and anyone who disagrees can ask for a division. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 9 passes. Article 10. Article 10. Shall the town vote to direct the select board to make available up to $100,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund to assist with the possible purchase of land and conservation easements of the Pole property by the Upper Valley Land Trust? Do I have a motion to adopt Article 10? Do I have a second? Article 10 has been moved and seconded. Shall the town vote to direct the select board to make available up to $100,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund to assist with the possible purchase of land and conservation easements of the Pole property by the Upper Valley Land Trust? Is there anyone who would like to present on Article 10?
That one is fine for starts. Yeah, so I'm still Rob Anderegg. I'm still chair of the Conservation Commission. Last year, the Planning Commission in Hartland did a survey of residents of Hartland, and one of the recurring themes, or several of the recurring themes in that survey, were people wanted to retain the rural character of Hartland. People wanted to conserve tracts of land and make them available to the public. People wanted more walking trails in Hartland, and they wanted more places for outdoor recreation. So if you voted for any of those things, or if you responded on the survey for any of those things, we've got a real deal for you. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Pole property. It's just up the road here a little bit. You can easily walk there from Hartland Three Corners. It's a fairly large tract of land. It's about 86 acres in total. The owner of it, Timotheus Pole, would like to put 75 acres of that under a conservation easement. And he has been negotiating with the Upper Valley Land Trust for a number of years, at least 4 years, to make this happen. Under the current proposal, the Land Trust would buy 75 acres, and they would put a conservation easement on that land. Under the terms of the conservation easement, the public would be allowed to use that land. Any trails that exist on the land would continue and would be available to the public for seasons. This project is really appealing. It's very rare to find an opportunity like this with a tract of land so close to the center of town that's really in such good shape. So the Conservation Commission asked that the Select Board put this article on the town meeting agenda. The money, what we're asking for is $100,000, up to $100,000. It would be money coming from the Capital Reserve Fund. So it's not increasing taxes. This is money that's already in the bank. We're just asking to spend it on this project. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is a map of the project, and just to orient you, let me see if I can do this. Here's Route 12 along this. There's the town garage and the highway department. Bischoff Lane is here, the Ottauquechee Road. Up at the top is Lover's Lane. So the area that's outlined in yellow is the 75 acres that we're talking about. The landowner, Mr. Pohl, would retain this part in the bottom, roughly 11 acres, that has all of the buildings that are currently on the property. 68 acres of the 75 acres would be conserved for recreational and agricultural uses. The remaining 7 acres is that little kind of orange triangle there. That would be set aside for possible use in the future for community housing. The property can be accessed by a right-of-way. You can see it kind of as a little stripy line down there in the bottom. That cuts across the property where Able Waste Management has their Saturday collections, the fast trash. The green lines on here are trails that Hartland Winter Trails maintains at the moment, and presumably those would become four-season trails and would be available for walking. To give you a sense of scale, the Foster Meadow property that we were talking about earlier, between the rec center and Lulls Brook, that's about 16 acres. So what we're talking here is roughly 4 times that amount of land. This would become a permanent park, and it would be available to anyone who wanted to recreate there, as long as the recreation met the terms of the conservation easement. So the next slide, please, Martin. So in summary, what we're asking is that $100,000 be set aside from the Capital Reserve Fund. The town would not be a co-owner of this property. The land trust would own the property, but what we would get for our $100,000 is permanent public access to the trail and the properties, the trails and the properties. The other thing that this $100,000 does that's very important is that it shows community support for this project. The land trust is going to have to raise the remaining money from other sources, grants, foundations, private fundraising individuals. All of those people want to know that the community supports the project before they commit any money to it. And so the entire project cost, I'm not sure the details have been worked out completely, but it will certainly be $500,000 or $600,000. So our $100,000, in a sense, is being magnified by all of that other money if the community supports it visibly enough that those foundations and places like the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board are convinced enough to put money in to make the rest of this happen. It would be 68 acres that would be permanently conserved. Could you go back to this? Yeah, so right now, a big chunk of this land is agricultural. It's a hay field, and that would be expected to continue. This is what it looks like when there's hay on it. And it could be used for really any agricultural purpose. I think the land trust at the moment intends to continue with the farmer who cuts that hay now under the same arrangement that he has with the Pohls. But in the future, if we wanted to use this for some other agricultural purpose, growing kale or something, we could do that. That would be one of the conserved strawberries, I meant. Okay, a couple more slides. No, back there. 7 acres would be set aside for possible community housing. And again, this is something that would be terrific to have this close to the village. That would not be done by the land trust. They would seek to find a partner who would develop that land into community housing. Agricultural and recreational uses would be allowed, and public access would be guaranteed. So that's kind of the long and the short of it. I'm certainly open if you, next one is just questions.
Okay. All right, Article 10, shall the town vote to direct the select board to make available up to $100,000 from the capital reserve fund to assist with the possible purchase of land and conservation easements of the Pole property by the Upper Valley Land Trust. Is there any further discussion?
Dean Greenberg.
But I wouldn't count on that happening. I think the 100,000 is probably something that we would need to commit.
Any further discussion? Yes. Hold. You have to wait for the mic. Apologies. It's.
They set up an account to maintain the property, so pay insurance, pay taxes, and maintain things the way they are. But for this particular piece of property, because Winter Trails already maintains those through volunteer efforts, the expectation would be that that would be a significant contributor to maintaining those trails. If there were new trails that the Land Trust felt were necessary, they would seek grant funding. The town is not expected to be paying any kind of maintenance for any of this land at this point.
Further discussion on Article 10. In the back, please. All the way up. Yep. And by the way, the reason we use the microphones is not just so you can hear it, but also so it can be captured on CATV.
Reserve Fund. So that was the one condition we knew about.
Yeah. The money never leaves the Capital Reserve Fund until the project is all set and complete to everybody's satisfaction, and then it would come out. So if the project were to fall apart, then the money never would leave the Capital Reserve Fund.
Further discussion on Article 10? All the way in the back?
Susan Riley. I have been thinking about this conservation project and thinking about who we are, what is Vermont, and what do we stand for. I'm also thinking about how are we going to house people so that we can have workers in the state. And I don't think that we can conserve Vermont as it was, and have enough people in Vermont to cover the jobs. So I wanted to just say that out loud. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion on Article 10. Yes, right here. Nope, right there. Yep.
Hi, Tim Rockwood. I'm the guy that's been a thorn in Rob's side a little bit. I don't really have a question. I just want to talk about conservation of land a little bit, because conservation of land is usually done to protect it from development. Vermont has significant rules and regulations protecting land from development. If you're thinking that someday there's going to be 40 houses on that field, it's not going to happen under today's rules. You look at what's being developed in the state of Vermont right now, and people are developing a lot at a time for their kid. There's nobody developing multiple lots like in the old days when the 10-acre exemption existed. 10-acre lots were built everywhere. Everybody chopped up their 100 acres into 10-acre lots. What's happening today is more of a cluster development, where people develop a cluster of the parcel, perhaps of 7 acres. But what happens is that trails and agriculture and all these other things become part of that development. And in a development like that, you go through a significant planning stage. In Vermont, you go through Act 250. You've got to do water, you got to do sewer, you got to do the 10 criteria, you got to look at wetlands. There's significant planning. So what bringing me to this is reverse engineering a conservation easement such as this. There's a lot of things that Rob's talking about. Well, we're going to build trails. Well, we could do this. Well, we have this easement to get across the land. You may in fact not have that easement across that lot. That easement is still a single woodlot right now. It's not a public easement. It's a private easement. And so you need to address that issue. The place where you're parking is private. That's private land. You're being allowed to park in that parking lot by agreement. You don't have a right to invite the public there to park all year round. So what brings me to this is I think you need more planning here. I'd like to know more about where is the proposed farming land? What trails might be additional places to build trails? Is that 7 acres actually developable, or should it be somewhere else? Do you really need to conserve all the land? You may not need to. It may have better uses. And my last thought is, Hartland, think of Hartland in a box. I'm talking downtown Hartland in a box. 3 sides of that box are closed. The 4th side is towards the pool lane. It's the only side of that box that's not closed by ridges, a river, a cemetery, a low brook, and floodplain. Over the next hundreds of years, if this town is still here and the United States and everyone else is still here, you're going to need to expand. 500 years out, 1,000 years out, towns just can't stay the same. You need room to grow. And the only growth is north, towards the pool land. And that needs to be part of the planning for this. I don't think we should sit here today and say, let's protect it. We don't need it in the future. You may, in fact, need this land in the future for this town to continue on. And I think it's poor planning to just sit here and say, let's conserve land because it's downtown. Rural Vermont is not downtown. Rural Vermont's in the woods. It's in the acres. It's where all these 10-acre lots are made. That's rural Vermont. You need to make room for growth in your downtown area. 100 years from now, Hartland, 3 corners and 4 corners may grow together. Maybe it takes 500 years, but it's going to go somewhere. or we're going to cease to exist because there's no room to expand. So those are my general thoughts, and I just want people to think beyond today and what you're looking at. We got to think, we're closing Hartland, we're putting it in a box with no room to expand, and we need to consider that, especially when we're using public funds to pay for this, because Hartland will have no deeded rights to anything going on there, and those things change. Upper Valley Land Trust may sell the land. They don't necessarily hang on to land in perpetuity. They sell it with their easement. So there's a lot of unknowns, and we're asked to put $100,000 in a pot, and I'm not sure we should until we know answers to many more questions and do some reverse planning on what really should happen on that 68 acres. Thank you.
Further discussion, we're not going to do debate. If he asks a specific, you can certainly comment in a second, but let me just make sure we've got other folks who are, yep.
I'm up there all the time.
Your name, please.
Candace. I'm up there all the time.
You've got to hold.
Oh, yeah. I'm up there all the time with my dogs and walking and cross-country skiing and such, and it's wonderful up there. But what are there going to be any restrictions on what type of recreational use could be used, specifically motorized vehicles, snowmobiles, four-wheelers, e-bikes? Those sorts of uses on those kind of trails could just ruin them.
Okay, you want to answer that question?
So a couple of things I think are important to note here. This property is not our property. This is Mr. Pohl's property. He can put whatever kind of easement he wants. He's not asking us for our advice, right? So the easement is between Mr. Pohl and the land trust. We can have input to that, and we have, and we can condition our $100,000 and say, if you don't allow public access, we're not going to put in our $100,000, right? But in terms of saying we think the development should go over here or over there, or it should be bigger or smaller, that's not our call. It's not our land. Now, in terms of what uses might be allowed or not allowed, the easement is designed to protect the land and protect the plants and animals that live there. So low impact uses like walking, skiing, snowmobile use in the winter would be expected to be okay. Higher impact activities like RVs or motorized recreation will probably not be allowed. And then there are some things in the middle like horses, dogs, bikes, and those we don't know. I think it depends on how responsibly those could happen. I think somebody walking a dog on a leash and cleaning up after it would be fine, but somebody letting a pack of dogs loose on the property to run around and chase whatever they found would probably not be fine. But the conditions of the easement are up to Mr. Pohl and the land trust to decide, not us.
Okay. So there is comment up in the, hold on, there's a comment up in the.
Thank you. This is Becca Warren again. I just want to thank the Conservation Commission for doing the work to bring this project to potentially being assisted by the town to have this land conserved and to have multiple uses on that land that I think are really necessary for us to be thinking about as a town as we think about what we value about our town and how we're going to maintain it given the climate pressures we are going to be seeing in terms of migration in a town where we don't really have a lot of limitations on development and growth. So thank you very much for bringing this topic and providing us this opportunity to support land conservation so close to downtown.
Okay. Yep. Okay, Mackenzie.
Hi, I am a Hartford resident.
No, you're not. So I'm sorry. I'm going to ask that we have residents be, because you're not a Hartland resident.
I use the trails weekly.
It does. So I'm going to try to keep this to Heartland residents in the debate unless there's a specific question that an expert can answer from out of town. I'm going to try to keep it to Heartland residents. Yes.
John Bartholomew. I'm wondering what the land trust's plans would be regarding habitat protection, and particularly you mentioned agricultural uses, and I'm wondering about protection of nesting grassland birds.
Martin, could you go back to the map? So if you look to the right here, the lower right, you see a thing that says agricultural fields. That's the agricultural part of the property that we're talking about. With regard to grassland birds, I don't know. The land trust, as the owner of the property, would decide what the haying schedule would be like. And we could ask them to consider adjusting that schedule to protect bobolinks and other birds, but it's really up to the landowner to decide that.
Further discussion of Article 10. Yep. Yes, please.
I'm Cheyenne Latimer. I have two questions. My first question is if the Upper Valley Land Trust was to sell this land off in the future to a different party, so then we would no longer have our easement onto the property. Is that correct? It wouldn't run with the land. Okay. And my second question is, can we have the Hartford resident ask her question? Can I elect to have that?
So, if you would like, what I want to share is that the reason that you condition the conversation to Hartland residents is because you could imagine a scenario where there would be lots of folks from outside of Hartland who would want to comment. In the past, we have accommodated for individuals who have areas of expertise. For example, if there is an organization that is being considered for funding and there are questions that only that person could answer, we have done that kind of deference, and that's fine. So I am going to suggest that unless you're not someone with the Upper Valley Land Trust, for example. Okay, so you may, at this point, you may make a motion to suspend the rules to ask, to allow for other people other than Hartland residents to participate essentially in the debate, which is typically out of bounds. But you are welcome to ask for that motion, in which case we would take a vote.
I will not make the motion. Thank you for explaining that, by the way.
You bet. You bet. Okay. So, further discussion of Article 10. Yes.
Thank you, Gary Tratcher. And I have to be wholeheartedly in favor in supporting this project. I've been with Winter Trails from the beginning, nearly 50 years ago now. And in this property being so close to the population center of the villages, within easy walking or bicycling distance, it seems like a prime location to set up sort of a park that would be enjoyed for multiple uses. As we've heard already, agriculture, a variety of recreational uses, probably typically human-powered. I believe that the land trust often goes through a fairly extensive process of working out a land use plan, which would, in this case, would include recreational trails. And just speaking from the Winter Trails point of view, in recent years, we've seen a large increase in the number of people from town, from the Upper Valley, and from further afield who come and recreate on the winter trails. And of course, the visitors from away do bring some commerce to the area. And the trails would continue to be maintained without cost to the townspeople. And it's my understanding that the Upper Valley Land Trust will continue to be a taxpayer. Is that right? So this property will continue to bring in revenue for the town coffers. And we think about 100 years into the future, whatever, and the town growing. And let's take an extreme example and look at Central Park in New York City, that someone had the foresight to set aside a portion of land to keep it open for a variety of uses. And the population grew around that so that the people continue to have a green space to go to and seek recreation, as it were. So I think this is a prime piece of land for us, the town, the community, to use in the future. Thank you.
Okay. We're on Article 10, and I'd like to recognize. Hold on. There. All the way over. Yep.
Hi, my name's Ann Hildreth. Two things. First off, I'm very excited that it's now going to be open year-round. That property is a fantastic resource for trails for everybody in the community, kids, parents, grandparents, walking trails. I'm really happy it's not just going to be in the winter, so we can use them year-round. And I also want to say that I agree with the last gentleman who spoke. Development will happen just because we have bought 75 acres development and conserved it. I'm sure development will always find its way. It always has.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 10? Hand mic over.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Amy Davin. I am much more curious and concerned about the housing. I've been here for going on 4 years now. I'm the pastor at the Brick Church. As a newer resident here, my husband and I found like the one house that was even remotely in our price range, way out off of Jennyville Road, way out in the boonies. And the only way we were able to buy it was because I married upper middle class and we got family help. And so, I moved to Vermont because it's beautiful and because of, a lot of the conservation. But I also know how difficult it is, how impossible it is for people my age who don't have the privilege that I did to find housing here. I mean, I was close to not being able to accept this position that I was called to do because I couldn't find housing. So I guess I'm curious about the potential housing, who decided how much, who decided where, and I would love to see so much more.
So the position of that 7 acres was determined by geography. That used to be a gravel pit, and so it is of lower conservation value, and so the size of it and the placement of it was because of its history. The land trust is most interested in conserving the land. That's why they're a land trust. But one of the potential funders of this project is the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board. And they're interested in dual purpose projects like this one, potentially, where you have some housing and some conservation happening at the same time. The land trust, as the owner of the property, would get to decide who to sell that 7 acres to, and who might develop it, and what sort of housing they put on it. That's different from if you turn the land over to some other developer, right? We have, the land trust would have control, and their priority would be community housing, affordable housing that's close to the village. If we give it to the highest bidder, there's no guarantee that the housing we get will be the kind of housing we need.
Right here.
I find
Your name?
that this is,
Name.
sorry, how's that?
No, your name.
I'm Deborah.
Thank you.
The queer. Now you know. I've been off and on here for 70-some years, and I find I am not allowed to walk near the farm that I grew up on, or on the farm that I grew up on. And I think this is happening for all of us. And for us to have a place to go, to walk on this kind of beautiful place is I think we're foolish not to do anything about it.
Okay. Further discussion on Article 10.
I'm married to Deborah. We're talking about conservation, making or saving space that is comfortable for all of us to enjoy. And I'm wondering, do we have to allow snowmobiles? Do we always have to have mechanical features around, which I think are upsetting to the environment to a certain extent? And I think we ought to get rid of those damn things. Let them go somewhere else. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. That was Peter LeQueer. Okay. Does anyone want to address that particular item? Okay. I'm hearing a sense that there may not. So we are on Article 10. Is there any further, and this is what we're here for, is there any further discussion on Article 10 before I read it again and we bring it to a vote? Yes.
Thank you, Chuck Fenton. I wanted to address, following up with what Deb had to say and others, about looking forward to the future. To me, it seems like there's certainly some trends happening in Hartland. We're an aging community. At least probably 40% of us now are people who could be members of Aging in Hartland. And for those of us who need to recreate, it's getting more challenging to find places that are close by, so to speak, and easily accessible for us to recreate. The town does have some conservation land that's further out, but I think it would be very beneficial for those of us who are aging to have places which are open to us, which are not private land, where we can recreate, walk, and do that in a quiet, respectful manner. Much as we love Foster Meadow, it's dominated by children much of the time, which is great. But for those of us who might want to find a place to peacefully and quietly recreate, this land could offer an alternative. The other thing that's happening, and clearly is happening, is land is becoming much more precious. I'm sure we all know that. And the plots upon which people live are becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. We have many people who rent now in this town, and that will probably continue to increase because that's one of the few financially accessible ways to live in our community. People who rent don't necessarily have land on which they can walk or recreate. This would offer a place where people who have any kind of residential situation would be available to go and to recreate. And even people who purchase now, their plots of land are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So I think as we look forward to the future, we're going to see those two issues coalesce: the aging population and more people who live on much smaller plots of land and do not have or will not have access to large tracts where there are trails and places to recreate peacefully and respectively. Thankfully. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion on Article 10 in the back? Okay, the question has been called yeah, we do need a second. There is a second, Nancy. So there is thank you. There is Nancy Lewis. So there is a motion and a second to close debate. This takes a 2/3 vote. All those in favor of closing debate signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you move to vote on Article 10. Shall the town vote to direct the select board to make available up to $100,000 from the Capital Reserve Fund to assist with the possible purchase of land and conservation easements of the Pole property by the Upper Valley Land Trust? Are you ready for the question? If so, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you have passed Article 10. Article 11, to transact any other business necessary and proper under this warning. Does anyone have anything under this warning? Motion to what? Oh, to call the question. Well, there actually really isn't a vote on this article, but I appreciate the nature. Let me. Do you have? You can. What, Brian? What? Go ahead. Go ahead. Say a couple.
Well, everybody, I just wanted to share some thoughts and comments. First off, it has been an honor and a privilege to serve our town as clerk. And I just wanted to kind of share some final thoughts here. So first off, always advocate for what you believe in, but always accept the outcomes, whatever they are. You all here are vitally important to this town. We have seen that with these lively discussions. All your acts matter, small, medium, large. To quote Thoreau, "For it matters not how small the beginning may seem to be, what is once well done is done forever." Love and laugh. We had a lot of laughter. I love it, okay? Those are the universal languages. So remember to love, and more so, remember to laugh. And I would say empathize, practice deep listening, and approach every experience with an open heart and an open mind. And I will close on this: study Bitcoin.
Thank you, Brian. You may. So, go ahead. Yep.
Bruce Renfro, I make a motion to adjourn this 2024 town meeting of Hartland.
Do we have a second? Right here? Okay, we have a lot of seconds. Okay. There's a motion. Pat. So, So there's been a motion to adjourn this 2024 town meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed say nay. And we have completed our business. Thank you, everyone.